Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Death by Disney podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about the 1962 made for UK television drama, The Prince and the Pauper. So, yeah, Disney has such a juggerhold on our cultural awareness, I guess, as a company that they I don't think many other companies in their archive have a movie they made for television from 1961, but Disney does. I gave this 7 out of 10. I surprisingly enjoyed myself, but let's dive into the movie then. It stars Guy Williams, Lawrence Naismith, and Donald Houston. And if you don't know the classic tale of the Prince and the Pauper, it's the story of these two boys, and through various adventures, one is a prince and the other is a very poor guy, and they notice that they look the same. I don't know, I guess the prince would have access to mirrors, I guess, but they look the same, and so they switch, and hijinks ensues. So here's my review. Disney fooled me, and I thought that this was a theatrical production that was released in cinema, so I watched it. This is actually a made-for-TV film from the 1960s, but honestly, it doesn't differ much from their live action of the time. There's a vague historical aspect, a lot of British actors, and a very out of place American accent. The story more or less sticks to the plot of the Mark Twain original, but it is done with more of a divine right of kings flair. It is clear that the poor boy would have made a better king, is making a better king, but he gives it all up when the real king returns from his adventures. It would have been a better film, a much better film, if the boy had decided, I'm the king now, take this ruffian and throw him in the tower. The real king dies at the age of 15, which the film barely hints at, although they do suggest that his sister Mary was a fanatic. Although Elizabeth I is barely mentioned in this, and so basically what happened is the boy named Jane Seymour as his heir, and he died. And then she was only queen for a couple of days, and then the boy's sister, Queen Mary, became queen, and she started to persecute the Protestants, and she married Prince Philip of Spain, and there was like the Armada and Spanish Armada and all of that stuff. And she died eventually, and Queen Elizabeth the First came to the throne. So I think she's not mentioned at all because this was the early years of Queen Elizabeth II. All right. In an attempt to make this podcast, somewhat educational and a little bit of fair and balanced criticism, I give you each episode, I give you some trivia, and also I give you some positive review and negative review that other people have done, and then I kind of debate them. So the trivia is what I briefly just mentioned. The historical Edward VI, who the prince represents, lived from 1537 to 1553, sadly dying of illness at 1537 to 1553. Can't read anything because I don't have glasses. Sadly dying of illness at 15. He was crowned at the age of 9. Fully aware of his fate, he named his cousin Lady Jane Grey, who we see in the film, as his successor. However, his sister Mary deposed Lady Grey 9 days after her coronation. Okay, yeah. So the actual prince is based on a real person, but I don't think that ever happened. The story of this film. All right, let's talk about negative review and a positive review. So the negative review, 3 out of 10, easily one of the worst in the archive. Given the stature of the studio today, it is easy to see what an outlier this was at the time. Produced overseas, so Walt was not in charge. In written as an uncertain combination and of drama and or musical, badly written, badly cast, badly acted, and badly directed, with a runtime of only 1 hour and 9 minutes. Except, of course, for Williams, the one and only Zorro, Eat Your Heart Out, Anthony Hopkins. And that's from A Different Drummer from March 12th, 2021. Uh, I think you have to be aware that this was made for television. So the production is not as good as it would be if the film had been given a theatrical release. But I don't I don't really see that it's such a bad thing. I think that it's, fairly enjoyable hour and 9 minutes. I don't see what the problem is. If you didn't like the story of the film, maybe just say that. Don't be like, "Oh, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad." And also, like the blaming that Walt Disney wasn't in charge because it was in a country, it was made in a foreign country. No, he was in charge. There was an entire division at the time of Disney that was in the UK, and they made movies like uh, Treasure Island, I think was made in the UK, mainly. Um, a bunch of historical live action, because that's what Disney was trying to do at this point. He was trying to make the company was trying to make live action films, and they hired a bunch of British actors to do those stories. So there were maybe like five, six, seven movies like that, all produced and released at the same time. And this is one of them, even though it was mainly made for UK television. And it did appear on the World of Disney as well. All right, a positive review. This is 8 out of 10. Cute, fun, and with beautiful images. A cute classic and very well executed. Tried to be the most faithful to the work. Great setting and costumes. The original work served as social criticism, which works well here too. It seems that Eric Kastner, the boy, doesn't do as well as the girl Haley Mills. Operation Cupid, which seems to be based on the same central idea, but we enjoyed with pleasure this great children's copy, full of fun and beautiful messages. And that's from Rosanna Botta Frog. Rosanna bought a frog. Oh, right. Rosanna bought a frog. Ha 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 ha. Uh, yeah, if you didn't quite get that, Haley Mills is another star of Disney, and around the same time before this movie, another movie that I will review came out called The Parent Trap. And basically, this was the film that kind of presented this, where you had two actors, one actor playing two parts in the same scene. So they kind of perfected that technology. So that's what they're referring to. And saying that the boy doesn't do a good job as Haley Mills does in that movie. But personally, I think he does an okay job. A pretty interesting effect for television at the time. So yeah, if you can find this and you have 1 hour and 9 minutes and you like that kind of conceit of switching identities, it's a good movie. Go watch it. That's my recommendation. What do you think? Please leave your review of this podcast or of the movie in the comments, and yeah, let me know. Let me know. I'm curious what you think.